Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It podcast with Dennis. In today's episode, I want us to dive into some powerful tools and techniques that were presented in a recent Netflix movie that I watched that was created by Jonah Hill about his therapist, Dr. Stutz. Now, these invaluable tools are designed to help those who are experiencing some crippling anxiety and depression that just doesn't let them move on and evolve in their life, as well as to those who just need a different path to take them to a more fulfilling, enjoyable, and happy life. Now, what really caught my attention was that Dr. Stutz was not your typical therapist. Unlike other therapists, and in general, the traditional therapy, the therapist remains objective, neutral, and as passive as possible. Dr. Stutz comes from a position of, I know better, and I can teach you how to do better, and I can literally give you some starting tips and advice of what to do in order to be better, to feel better, and to cope with life better. And he's not afraid of the possibilities and the responsibility that he's taking on himself. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it after the intro.
Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be.
You can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you want.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take.
If you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
I want to remind you to continue to dream and dream big.
Let me tell you something, visualizing your goal and going after it makes it fun. You've got to have a purpose no matter what you do in life.
Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball. But you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Fall forward.
Whew! How are you guys? I hope you're doing well. I hope you enjoyed my previous episodes and that you're coming full on ready and excited to this episode as I am. Now, a few keynotes before we go into it. This episode is not meant to be a review to this movie. It's breaking down the actual useful tips and techniques that are presented in this movie. And regardless to the fact that I highly recommend you to watch the movie because it's made in a very special manner that delivers this point of view, and it's accessible and as simply explained that any one of us can understand it and use and apply these techniques immediately in your life in order to improve them. So my goal with this episode is just to present tools and techniques that somehow probably were already known to us. Some of them were introduced in a little bit of a different way or combined with a very interesting use of your imagination and some other things to combine and have a better result. So with that in mind, let's jump into it. So in this movie, Dr. Stutz introduces us to three aspects of life that nobody can avoid: pain, uncertainty, and constant work. Understanding and embracing these aspects of life can become the first pivoting point and the start of understanding that your personal growth and your transformation are within the grasp of your palm and that you can reach them at any moment and start your journey towards unlocking a better life and a happier life. So the first one is pain. Pain is something that no matter how rich you are, no matter how poor you are, healthy, unhealthy, no matter what background or what characteristics can be fitted when describing you, you cannot escape pain. You will experience pain from loss, you will experience physical pain, you will experience all kinds of pain that will shape you into a new kind of person. And you already experienced many kinds of pain that shaped you into the person you are today. So pain is one of the basic aspects of reality that you cannot escape. So instead of trying to avoid it, you need to embrace and accept the fact that it's out there and it's going to be there. And instead of trying to escape it, you need to welcome it. You need to understand that it's a part of your growth, it's a part of life, and it's unavoidable. The second aspect is uncertainty. Now, uncertainty is, I would call, the magic in our life, because just think about it. If all your life was just written in a book, just waiting for you to be read and know exactly what will wait for you around any corner at any given time, where will be the fun? Where will be the mystery? Where will be the excitement of the unknown? Of course, it can be also scary because it's not that just good, just like we said. Sometimes there is pain waiting around the corner, and knowing that it will come doesn't necessarily make it better. So instead of trying to avoid things, we should be excited. We should embrace the fact that we don't know how our day will end, and we will try to live life to the fullest each moment. Don't postpone this trip that you were dying to do. Don't postpone the new hobby or exercise or meeting that you were really, really wanting to make happen. So just go ahead and do this. That's the beauty of uncertainty. And again, instead of fearing it, we should embrace it and look at the other parts that are beautiful about it and that make our life magical. Now, the third aspect is the need of constant work. And this one is a little bit more tricky, because the way Dr. Stutz explains it is that we are built as a living human being. We need to constantly work. We need to constantly work on ourselves, on our surroundings, on our relationships, on developing our life and our career and professionalism. There is infinite aspects to that. And no matter how you look at it, we weren't made to come to this world to go to our 9-to-5 boring jobs just so we can pay rent and bills and watch Netflix in the evening. And I know that sometimes that's all you can do with the energy that you have. But the problem is that you just don't realize that you're stuck in a loop that is slowly killing you, because that's not you. That's not what you're built for. You were built for experiencing things. You were built for trying and testing your limitations. You were built for learning. You were built for constantly working on perfecting, developing further your people skills, your communicational skills, learning and unlocking new skills within you. So the need of constant work is a very big aspect of reality that we need to accept, and we need to embrace it and take it full on to take ourselves to the next level. We need to accept that no matter what we do, if we will do it just to mark a check on some stupid list that we don't care about, it won't bring us anywhere. And then you obviously shouldn't be surprised. Why are you so depressed? Or why life is so boring? Try to make it exciting. You need to work. And not in a bad sense of the word. Work is something beautiful. Work is the process. Work is the journey towards your ultimate goal. That can be something big or something small. And the need for it, that's what drives you. That's what creates the excitement of each day. And that's what combines with the previous two aspects of reality that, once you embrace all of them, will already put you a few steps ahead of most of the people in this world. Now, once we come to terms with these aspects of reality that none of us can escape, and we've accepted them, and we've embraced them, we can start diving into these so-called tools, as Dr. Stutz calls his techniques and tips for starting and pivoting your life to the right direction, to the direction you want it to go. So the first one that we are introduced to is the life force. The life force, as Dr. Stutz calls it, is the combination of the elements that make us feel truly alive, which means our relationship with our physical body, our connections with other people surrounding us, if it's relatives or if it's just friends, or even our personal relationships, and ultimately, our relationship with ourselves. By nurturing our life force, we gain the strength to overcome challenges and move forward with purpose, with the feeling that we can achieve everything, because this what will fuel you and motivate you. It will take you immediately out of this dark and mundane mood of nothing's possible, nothing's worth it. Now, the beautiful part about the life force as introduced in the movie is that it's the key to an instant change in how you are feeling in your life. And it starts with the basics of your relationship with your body. Once you start treating your body better, making your body feel healthier, feel better, more rested, and you actually care about it and start working on it. And the most classic example that is even given in the movie is the lack of exercise. The lack of exercise will make you more depressed. There are currently thousands of studies that prove that physical exercise and leading an active life is a key to creating hormones that are released in your body that fight depression. And they are found 3 times more effective than any antidepressant. So this is an instant jump to already feeling better for a lot of people who are stuck in a cycle or in a place where they just feel miserable or helpless. So to anyone who is listening out there, do that. Start there. And trust me, you will find all of a sudden strength and energy to do things you didn't even imagine.
Here's the classic thing that happens. A guy's depressed, he comes into my office and he says, I know my habits are shit. I know I'm undisciplined. I know I'm lazy, but if I only knew what I was supposed to be doing, what my mission was in life, etc., I'd be like I was shot out of a gun. But I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just going to be lazy and do nothing. And then from that, obviously, comes to the depression. There's something that will apply to you and to anybody else who doesn't have a sense of direction or doesn't know what they should do next. And the answer is you can always work on your life force. The only way to find out what you should be doing, it's like who you are, is to activate your life force. Because your life force is the only part of you that actually is capable of guiding you when you're lost. If you think of it as a pyramid, there's 3 levels of the life force. The bottom level is your relationship with your physical body. The second layer is your relationship with other people. And the highest level is your relationship with yourself. The bottom step is your relationship to your physical body. All you got to do is get your body working better, and it always works. The most classic thing is they're not exercising. Diet is another one, and sleeping.
So what percentage of that stuff is what makes you actually feel better at first?
Well, when it starts out, it's probably 85%. It's very high.
How fucking crazy is that?
Okay, so that's the first level. The next one is your relationship to other people. And relationships are like, you know those things when you're climbing a mountain, you're pounding those pitons, it's like a handhold. So your relationships are like handholds to let yourself get pulled back into life. The key of it is you have to take the initiative. If you're waiting for them to take the initiative, you don't understand this. You could invite somebody out to lunch that you don't find interesting. It doesn't matter. It will affect you anyway in a positive way. That person represents the whole human race symbolically. So that's the middle tier. And the highest tier is your relationship with yourself. The best way to say it is to get yourself in a relationship with your unconscious, because nobody knows what's in their unconscious unless they activate it. And one trick about this is writing. It's really a magical thing. You enhance your relationship with yourself by writing. And somebody will say, well, write what? I'm not interested in anything. I'm not a writer. It doesn't matter. If you start to write, the writing is like a mirror. It reflects what's going on in your unconscious. And things will come out if you write like in journal form that you didn't know that you knew. These are the 3 levels of the life force. If you're lost, don't try to figure it out. Let it go and work on your life force first. It's about passion, increasing your life force so you can find out what you're really passionate about.
Now, later on, Dr. Stutz sheds light on a challenging and a resisting invisible force that's whole mission is to prevent any change or growth. A dark side that will use any manipulation or trickery that it can to prevent us from growing and making the right decisions and taking actions that will change our lives. Now, this invisible force is called Part X. Part X represents the judgmental, adversity, and punishing circumstances that we encounter in our lives, and the doubtful parts of our mind. All of these combined together will come to life in voices, traumas, in different aspects of imagination, thoughts that will stop us and will tell us that this is impossible. You can't do it. You can't change it. You won't make it, so why bother trying? So the whole sole purpose of Part X is to stop you from trying and to leave you as you are. So understanding and confronting Part X is very crucial to the path of personal growth.
Part X is such a major part of understanding how your tools work, so I wanted to talk about that.
So, when adversity comes, it's an opportunity for you to, at that moment, you're going to face Part X directly. Part X is the judgmental part of you. It's the antisocial part of you. It's an invisible force that wants to keep you from changing or growing. It wants to block your evolution. It wants to block your potential. It wants to fuck up your shit.
So Part X would be the villain in the story of being a person. And the tools are what the hero on the journey can use to fight the villain.
Yes. Part X is the voice of impossibility. Because whatever it is you think you need to do, it's going to tell you that's impossible. Give up. It gives you a very specific dossier about who you are, what you're capable of. And it creates this like primal fear in human beings.
What does your Part X say to you?
It makes me feel like I'm wasting time. It tells me that I've invented all this stuff and the stuff is great. I'm very confident, but it won't spread deeply enough into the culture.
So how can people get rid of Part X?
You can't. You can defeat him temporarily, but he's always going to keep coming back. That's why you have 3 aspects of reality that nobody gets to avoid: pain, uncertainty, and constant work. So those are things you're just going to have to live with no matter what. If it did work like that, if you could banish Part X, then there'd be no further progress.
So if this is a story, the main character needs Part X, it needs the villain, because if the main character doesn't have to overcome a villain, there's no story.
Right.
And there's no growth, and there's no change, and there's no bravery, and there's no courageousness. We need the negativity of Part X or else we don't grow.
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't mean you can't work very hard at a goal. It doesn't mean you can't succeed. But really, if you want to be happy, because that won't make you happy. What will make you happy is the process. You actually have to learn how to love the process of dealing with those 3 things. That's where the tools come in. When it appears, you can identify it, and then you can use a tool on it to nullify it. And if you can teach somebody to do that, they can change their whole life. Because the highest creative expression for a human being is to be able to create something new right in the face of adversity. And the worse the adversity, the greater the opportunity.
Once we grasp the aspects of reality, our life force, and acknowledge the existence of part X, we are ready to dive in the tools, the practical techniques for personal transformation. The first one that is introduced in the movie is called the string of pearls. The string of pearls symbolizes the value of each and every action of our lives. It can be a big one or a small one. It has no difference because it's just symbolic. It just shows us that no matter how many actions we take, they're just another pearl on the string. And it can be brushing our teeth, or it can be ending a relationship, or it can be quitting our jobs. And no matter how big or small this action is, it's ending up as just another pearl. So, first of all, it takes the crippling and scaring and anxious feeling of the responsibility of taking action. It helps a lot of people that are scared of taking action and making decisions, especially people who are suffering from overthinking, anxiety, and depression. It takes a lot of pressure off them. And it symbolizes that no matter what you do, it will end up as just another pearl. Now, he adds to it with a very humoristic point of view, and he says, in each pearl, there's a black dot, which he calls a turd. And as he paints it, he says, no matter how perfect you try to do on any action that you perform or execute, it will still end up with a little turd inside. It will never be perfect. So stop stressing. Don't mind it. Embrace it and just go on with it. So the ultimate goal is not to make it as best as perfect as possible. The ultimate goal is to finish it and move on to the next action to add more pearls to your chain. And you can add to the overall value of this string of pearls. The second tool that Dr. Stutz introduces is the shadow. The shadow is the part of ourselves that we are most ashamed of. The part we wish didn't exist. We hide it deep within us. We don't give it time or space. We try to avoid any thought about it. And by that, we help it grow. We help it take more and more control over our lives. And we help feeding this anxiety that one day everybody will find out and our cover will be blown and everything will go and be blown away and we'll be left alone. As ironic as it may seem, to solve this problem, he actually encourages us to engage with our shadow. He encourages us to visualize it, to give it time and space, ask it how it feels, honor its presence, try to understand what is so bad about it, and realize that nothing, it's just another human part of us. Sometimes it can be just a situation, sometimes it can be a deep trait of us, or it can be a version of us from the past. But it doesn't matter what it is, we need to honor its presence. And we need to learn to live with it, communicate with it, embrace it as a part of ourselves. And by that, we can actually get over it, stop giving it the force that it has to stop our lives.
Everybody has a shadow. Everybody's shadow is a little bit different, but on the other hand, everybody's shadow is the same because it's the part of themselves they're ashamed of. Just so you understand what we're talking about, it's not how this looks or if it looks good or bad. It's the process of constantly relating to it that matters. If you don't pay him respect or attention is the best word for it, he'll make you do things that are actually destructive. And the idea of being in sync with the shadow, it's a sense of wholeness. Wholeness means I don't need anything else. I'm whole the way I am. And that's very freeing.
The next tool that Dr. Stutz introduces is the snapshot. The snapshot is a metaphor for the perfect experience, the perfect moment, the perfect circumstances that we seek in life. The perfect excuse, as I would call it. Because it's what we wait for to go on and chase our dreams, to go on and try what we always wanted to do, to go on and build the life we have always wanted. We are waiting for the right amount of money in our banks, or the right circumstances regarding our relationships, or the right circumstances regarding our health. He calls it specifically the snapshot because it's always some sort of a picture without any movement. It's just a snapshot in our mind. It doesn't have any depth. It's just there. And the danger in it is that it's a frozen moment that we value too much, and we condition our lives to it. We put everything on hold, waiting for something in order to actually live our lives. So the bottom line is, our fulfillment doesn't lie in frozen moments, but in embracing dynamic and multi-faced nature of existence. We need to actually work, do, live, speak, think. We need to live our lives, not by waiting for something to happen, but by making things happen, by doing things, by trying, by starting. Because the circumstances will never be enough. The circumstances will never be exact. And that little snapshot in our mind that we are waiting for, the only way it will come to life is by us working. And trust me when I tell you that even if you do achieve this snapshot, you do bring it to life, it won't solve any of your problems. Your depression and anxiety won't snap away. And your insecurity won't vanish. It's all up to you. So stop conditioning your happiness and your life in other things, in your imagination. After introducing to the tools, Dr. Stutz introduces us to one of the byproducts of part X, and he calls it the maze. Now, to understand what the maze is, you need to go back to the aspects of reality that are inevitable and will encounter in each one of our lives. The constant work, the pain, and uncertainty. So he explains the work is never a linear path. It can sometimes take you a little bit backwards, sometimes forward, up, down, and it's a whole process. And the key to it is to keep aiming forward, no matter what. The problem is, once we start dwelling and looking in our quest for fairness, for making us even with somebody, we find ourselves stuck in the maze. And the maze is just an infinite whirl that will just keep you inside as long as you let it suck you in, as long as you waste your time on a futile quest instead of moving forward. Now, to avoid getting stuck in this maze, Dr. Stutz introduces a few helpful visualization tools that will help you use the work process in your advantage. So the first one is the active love. The active love is a visualization tool that he says is very helpful to get over conflicts, situations where you just can't seem to forgive someone or something, even yourself, in a past experience. So to overcome it, he offers you to close your eyes and imagine an entire universe composed of entirely loving energy. Now, once you visualize this universe and your physical self just floating in it, imagine yourself absorbing all of this energy, all of this love, and turning you into pure love. Now, imagine taking all of this observed and concentrated love energy and emitting it straight on to another person or a situation or whatever you were holding in your mind that you couldn't get over, that you couldn't forgive, and just boom and beam this energy into this person. And as you do that, you need to remember, you don't want to be right. You don't want to be even with this person. You don't really care about it because you won't gain anything from it. Your ultimate goal is to move on, be happy, create something new, become a better self. And in order to do so, not for this person, you just need to forgive him. Forgive him to move on, not because he deserves it. This is the antidote to judgment. Instead of judging yourself or others, or even something that you might think that will happen in the future, you will learn to accept all parts of yourselves and others around you. And you won't allow this negative energy to exist and keep holding and pushing you back into this maze. Now, the next aspect of this constant work is the grateful flow. To understand it, he asks to imagine there is a beautiful day, the perfect weather, sunshine is just beaming over everything, filling it with warmth and energy and creation and life. And then there is a black, enormous cloud that just arrives from nowhere and blocks the sun. And then he asks, well, what is your way through this black cloud back to the sun? Back to seeing these rays of sunshine and letting them fill you and warm you up. And that's where the grateful flow comes in. You need to use gratitude, and gratitude is one of the most powerful tools in life. According to any coach or mentor out there, gratefulness and gratitude is the most powerful tools that you can adopt in your arsenal to fight negativity, to change your channel of what you're seeking, what you're seeing, and what you're absorbing in life. For example, I personally love the new habit that I adopted, I won't say recently because it's been already a few years, but that I love to do. It's finishing every day with writing at least 5 things that I'm grateful from the last day. It might be small things, like a delicious meal. It might be big things, like an amazing experience I had with my girlfriend. It might be a huge achievement that I unlocked in my hobby, in my career. It doesn't matter. But as long as you focus on these things and browse through the day and teach yourself to look for these things, you start to find them automatically. It becomes a task that doesn't require any effort. And you, at that point, you change the channel. You turn it into a habit. You turn it into a part of your character, and you automatically become more positive. So these negative moments don't have as much of an impact on you, and they don't block the sun anymore. This cloud doesn't get absorbed. You can have a few small clouds, but the sun and the sunshine will never lack the strength to break them up and just to break through them. So gratitude and gratefulness are one of the most powerful tools that you can use.
Part X wants you to have the negative thoughts, so it'll create the cloud up there so you can't see the sun. You forget that it's actually sunny up there. The question becomes, how do you penetrate the cloud? And the answer is with gratefulness. It gives you the sensation, the feeling that there's always something up there positive, even if you can't see it at all. But you have to have a mechanism. That's where the tool comes in. The grateful flow is not the things you're grateful for. The grateful flow is the process of creating these things. So close your eyes. Now, what you want to do is you say 2 or 3 of at most 4 things you're grateful for. And the smaller the thing, the better, because it forces you to concentrate gratefulness. You want to do it nice and slow. You want to feel the gratefulness.
Next on the list is loss processing. Now, loss processing can be adapted to the literal loss that you can experience in life of a loved one, or it can be to a loss of something that you hold on to and clench so dearly as if your life depends on it, that you can think that you cannot survive without. It can be your job, it can be a toxic relationship, it can be many things. To fight that, Dr. Stutz says you need to imagine yourself latching on to a branch of a tree, and you're holding it because you know that once you will fall, you will get hurt or you will die or worse. And he says just trust enough that you will not die once you let go of this branch of tree. Now, this branch symbolizes this toxic relationship or the person that you're afraid to lose in your life, or your career, or a friendship, or even something that is material, like money. It doesn't matter. Let go. Trust me that once you fall, you will notice that the fall is not that bad. And instead of falling, it feels more like floating slowly towards the ground. And then you see yourself falling towards this orb of concentrated energy, like a sun. But instead of burning, once you land on it, your body just disintegrates and it frees your spirit and turns you into pure energy. All of a sudden, the need for the possession of these things that you were so afraid to lose, it just disappears. Instead of grasping to things, all of a sudden you feel free to give away, to help, to support, and to spread love.
Think of something you're attached to, a relationship, career, your health. You're holding on to this thing for dear life, like you're hanging from the edge of a tall building or the branch of a tall tree. Let go, saying, I'm willing to lose everything. You're falling, but it's a gentle fall, a feeling of surrender. You look down and see that you're falling onto the face of a brilliant sun. As your body touches the face of this sun, it disintegrates and disappears. You no longer exist as an individual. You are now a beam of golden light radiating from this sun. All around you are thousands of other suns. They reach their rays towards you and you reach your rays towards them. You are connected. You are now part of this infinitely large glowing matrix of golden suns.
Now, not all these tools are necessarily things that you will need and adapt or use, and it's perfectly fine. The understanding of their existence, the understanding of how much they can be of a help to you, is the first step to understanding that everything can change. Now, the best place that I would recommend to start is by, first of all, watching the movie and understanding it more deeply. And secondly, by actually using the life force, as Dr. Stutz calls it, and putting a pin in your relationship with your body, with the people surrounding you, and most importantly, your relationship with yourself. It will be a tremendous impact on your life once you start working on those. And everything that comes afterwards will be some sort of a bonus. To sum up, I would like to go through all of these again, just for us to be on the same page. So first of all, we need to realize that reality has a few aspects that are undeniable and no one can escape, which is pain, the uncertainty, and the constant need of work. Once we realize that, we can move forward to understanding that there is something called our life force. And our life force, which is basically your fuel, your energy, what gives you power to move on, consists of your relationship with the people around you, your body, the physical one, and you with yourself, accepting who you are. Once we got that out of the way, we need to understand that there is a force that will always work against us, trying to manipulate us and to trick us into staying in the same spot, avoiding any changes, forgetting about growing, and just staying miserable. And that's called part X. And we must learn that it's there and that we need to face it from time to time. And to that, we are provided with tools. We are provided with the string of pearls, which we need to grow. And the ultimate goal of it is to have as much pearls as we can on this string. Doesn't matter if it contains of big or small actions. And we need to remember that the third in each pearl will always be there. So it's impossible to make them perfect. And it doesn't matter how good we do them, as long as we do and move on to the next one. Of course, try to do your best. Next, we have the shadow, the part of us that we are ashamed of. It can be a situation or a character or even an actual me of the past that we just refuse to give credit and to honor its presence. And by that, we give it more and more force. We make it heavier as an anchor holding us back. Because the more we try to hide it, the more it fights to be seen. And the more we reject a part of ourselves that we cannot, we are living and existing in a constant conflict. So we need to live and accept and embrace this part of ourselves. And by that, we'll gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and begin to work through what this part of us is trying to tell us. Later, we're introduced with the snapshot, which is a metaphor for a perfect experience or circumstances of reality that we picture in our minds, literally as a picture, a snapshot that is not moving. Most of the time, we condition our happiness on this fruit of our imagination instead of starting to work and build our life that we want to have. We wait for the right moment, for the right amount of money in the bank, for the right excuse to do what needs to be done. And it will never happen. Because once you, by accident, reach this snapshot, the right sum of money, the new car that you thought that will bring you happiness and joy and fulfillment, or the relationship that you thought that will solve all your problems because you're dating the best person that you ever met in the world, that all won't solve the problems. That all won't take depression, anxiety, sadness away. It just won't. So accept that and understand that it's a fruit of your imagination and it's a frozen image, that its sole goal is to leave you where you are, dreaming instead of doing. Then we're introduced with the maze. The maze is there to keep us back from the constant workflow that takes us forward. It keeps us busy with trying to get even, to be square, to get fairness and life to provide us with what we are owed. And instead of dwelling on the past, we need to be enjoying the present, accepting and confronting whatever life will bring to us, using the tools we were provided by Dr. Stutz, which is the active love that embraces forgiveness and moving on from anything that holds us to the past and the people that hurt us, even if it's ourselves. The radical acceptance, that is the antidote of judgment, the learning to accept things that sometimes won't fit with our high standards. And the grateful flow, which is the key to everything, in my opinion. It's being grateful for being alive. It's learning to appreciate and changing the channel from the negativity to the possibility of life. These are the tools as introduced in the movie. And in general, I think that it's a well-made movie with a lot of value to be given, a lot of tools to be provided and be used on our day-to-day life, in our every challenge and aspect that we deal with. So I hope you find it helpful. I hope you check out the movie just to get a little bit more insight about what Dr. Stutz meant and who he is. Hopefully, by the end of this episode, you have your mind already set at least on one tool that you are eager to use in your life. And I will be more than happy to hear if it helped you. So feel free to DM me, send me an email, and share your thoughts. How did it change your life? So once again, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. Thank you for choosing the right path towards unlocking the best version of you, to being more happy and fulfilled with your life. This was Let's Talk About It podcast. My name is Dennis. Thank you, and have a great evening.